Year-old Daniel Angerin following a sword attack in East London. Daniel was fatally injured as he walked to school on Tuesday morning. 4 other people, including 2 police officers, were hospitalised. People have been gathering to lay flowers at the scene, with police officers among those laying those tributes. One card read, "May your beautiful son rest in peace." The Met Police say Monzo of Newham is a dual Spanish-Brazilian national. He's also been charged with 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of grievous bodily harm, aggravated burglary and possession of a bladed article. He'll appear at Barkingside Magistrates Court tomorrow. Well, police believe a piece of glass may have been used as a weapon during an incident at a school in Sheffield. A 17-year-old boy has been arrested for attempted murder after 3 people were hurt at the Burley Academy this morning. Police have praised the actions of school staff, describing the events as a frightening ordeal. The government looks set to face more legal challenges over its Rwanda plan after detaining the first group of migrants to be deported. Both men and women have been taken into custody in a series of operations across the country. Officials won't confirm how many people have been detained or where they were taken from. So far, the FDA trade union, which represents senior civil servants, is threatening legal action over the plan. Well, meanwhile, GB News can reveal that more than 1,700 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel in just over a week. Early this morning, a boatload of around 70 people was taken to Dover Harbour by lifeboat. In total, around 400 people have been taken to the Border Force Migrant Processing Centre today. Scotland's SNP government has survived a confidence vote at the Scottish Parliament. The leader of Scottish Labour, Anas Sarwar, tabled the motion after a power-sharing deal between the SNP and the Greens collapsed. The motion was defeated by 70 votes to 58. Meanwhile, 2 MSPs thought to be considering running to replace Scotland's First Minister have held private talks together. John Swinney and Kate Forbes met at Holyrood yesterday. Both have received support from senior members of their party after Humza Yousaf announced that he was stepping down. The meeting has been described as informal. Both politicians are still weighing up their options. Well, for the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Time now for headliners.
Thanks, Ray. Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, taking you through tomorrow's top stories for the next hour. And I'm joined by resident scientist Steve N. Allen. There he is. And resident science denier Lewis N. Schaefer. How are you both doing?
Well, he's facing away from me, in case you catch the science, isn't it?
No, I'm going to win. I'm going to win because we all know that the science is completely...
I love you don't even need to know which science. You're just like, the science is wrong.
You know, whenever they say the science... it's wrong.
True.
What about a science?
Good point.
A science can be right, but it's not the science. He used the words the science.
True. And that's the kind of robust debate you can expect on tonight's show. But let's have a quick look at the front pages. So the Daily Mail has Day That Rwanda Became a Reality. The Telegraph, Ireland sends police to border in migrant row. The Times, Labour plan for Channel migrants to get asylum. The Express, heartbroken family pay tribute to wonderful child. The UK-Rwanda plan could be delayed as civil servants sue government. And finally, the Daily Star, we're going to need a bigger Lilo, which is about a shark terrorising Sussex. And those were the front pages. So what are the Daily Mail going with, Lewis?
Daily Mail has the story, which is a true scholar. Daniel, 14, killed in sword attack, was teacher's son. And he was killed at 14. Yeah. I don't know whether this is a picture of the kid at 14. Looks like a lovely kid, but he's dead. And people are so happy that it was a white guy that was
Spanish-Brazilian national, wasn't he? Yeah, I know what you mean. Online, there's been some unfortunate, very tasteless sort of debate about with different political sides trying to score points off who the perpetrator was. Yeah. All right, Daniel, Andrew, yeah, tragic story. And we got the Rwanda as well.
Yeah, Day That Rwanda Became Reality. This is what we've been I don't know, waiting for. I haven't been waiting for it because I didn't think it was going to happen, and it probably isn't going to happen. What it is that it got passed in the House of Lords, and so that they're going to be starting to send people to Rwanda, but they're going to give them £3,000, and they're not going to say don't. They might say please don't come back, but the people are going to come back anyway, and at the same time, it's being fought by people at the civil servants are fighting it.
Yeah, Steve, what do you think? I'm a little bit suspicious. We've sort of got 800 officers launching Operation Vector. And my thing is, it's funny how you can suddenly get things done when elections are coming up. Mind you, it's not been the most efficient process, so maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is going to be my theme for the evening, which will make me even more hated. Nah, this is not that story. They're making this is Rwanda becoming a reality. Well, this is just that these raids that could have happened 3 weeks ago but wouldn't have then definitely ended up in a Rwanda outcome should have been happening anyway. So on that, I agree. The timing feels like they left it until the bill was passed so that they could say these raids are the Rwanda plan working. No, these raids should be happening anyway. So that, and the point about the civil service, sorry to, diddle on someone's chips again here, this is about the civil servants wanting to try and get the clarification on their role. Their role is that the rules that they work by is that they have to stick to international law. They want the government to clarify that they won't be held responsible for breaking it. So it's not that they're launching a legal bid to stop the flights taking off. They're wanting legal clarification. They're covering their own backsides. Which I think I'd do as well. If someone said, could you be in charge of this? I'd be like, yeah, brilliant. You definitely get sued for it, though, not me. That's what they're doing.
Oh, that's rubbish. That's rubbish, Steve. Because at the end of the day, these people know what they're doing. They're civil servants, and they've been told what to do. And so they're not going to be held responsible. When was the last time you heard of a civil servant?
Their guideline says that if someone asks them to do something that breaks international law, they should not do it. So they're wanting clarification on actually doing it. How else should they proceed?
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Back down very, very quickly there. But I do like Steve's attempt. Remember, we go out at 5 a.m, so diddle on someone's chips was a wonderful way of getting around that. All right, what about the Times then, Steve?
They have Labour plan for Channel migrants to get asylum. Nah, it's not really. What this is saying that if you make your way to the UK through illegal means, they will consider asylum cases. This was the status quo before anyway. And this is fine while ever you don't have another option. It's always been that weird situation where, as a nation, we have a requirement to offer some sort of asylum, and quite even people who are really anti-migration can often go along with the argument that, do you know what, there are some cases where we should step in. People would not argue about Ukraine and Afghanistan. Those are some of the few places where there's a legal route. Without that, how do you manage to get to the UK? Well, you break the law, and then if the rule is, well, that's it, you broke the law, no, you can't actually have an asylum claim. What you need is an asylum system that filters out more no's.
So
gives valid cases.
Do you think this is the Times just trying to sabotage Keir Starmer?
Well, it's the Times spin on it, yeah. The headline very much makes it look like they'll just be letting you come across the channel and they'll be dishing out all the asylum applications. No, this was the way it always was until we changed it recently.
So why did it say they vowed to overturn the government's hardline asylum ban then?
Yeah, they've only just recently brought in this. So
you're talking about the one in July last year, the illegal migration act. But the problem is, what do you make of the Times' claim then that presently about 90,000, expected to rise to 115,000 by the end of the year, these people who are still in this system will be entitled to claim asylum if Labour wins, which would effectively increase the asylum backlog sevenfold overnight. Yeah,
well, that's unfortunately what happens. That backlog has been building up since the change of the law. You've got people who now have just been automatically not allowed to apply. Well, they can't apply, so if then you remove that restriction, suddenly all of these people who've been sat waiting will be allowed to... That backlog's already there, is what I'm saying, I suppose.
But they do have a different line on the boats in general, don't they? And they've been grilled on it, where they're going to stay. Neil Coyle, MP, couldn't answer where the asylum seekers would stay. I mean, do Labour have a realistic plan to tackle it?
No one has a realistic plan because no politicians are willing to actually say the things that upset their base in either direction. Both sides are guilty of this. The Conservatives should just be a bit honest about the fact that, no, we've been fiddling the numbers because we actually like what it does to GDP. We like to boast about the economy, so we've been deliberately failing on the asylum side of things, on the migration side of things, and then blaming it on lefty, whatever you want to say, lawyer, doctors, probably whatever. Whereas Labour make it look like, oh, no, we're not going to bring in any restrictions. You'll have to if you want to win elections.
Well,
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Because I think the people that are coming in are left-leaning people who would vote Labour. So I don't think they've got any intention of trying to stop this from happening.
OK, they're like GBNews viewers who we learned the other day mainly prefer Keir Starmer. Who knew? So there we are, Steve. You're home. Yeah. Let's do the Telegraph then. And people said the Rwanda scheme wouldn't work and hardly any migrants would actually leave. But that's not true. We've sent loads over to Ireland already, Lewis.
Yes, and this is what Rishi Sunak was saying, talking to the Irish ministers. He was saying, don't send police to the Irish border to stop migrants. Sunak tells Dublin, and because people are coming in through England into Ireland, because the Irish people are a lot nicer to them, generally speaking, than the English people have been. And so he's saying, don't stop it.
But like 2 weeks ago, you would have been sat there saying the problem is England, the UK is too nice to people who come over here. We dish out all these benefits left, right. That's the normal moan. And now the moan is that Ireland's too nice and we're not nice enough. I'm not, this is me, third one. It's not the story. I think there's something very suspicious about suddenly saying all of these migrants are making their way from the UK to Ireland because of the passing of the Rwanda bill. I think this was happening anyway, and this is a really good opportunity to blame it on the bill, try and make it seem like the UK should receive people back. This has given us a lot of empathy for the French response to what are you going to do about getting people back?
You say blame it on the bill. It's the opposite. Take credit for it is what you mean with Sunak. He's taking credit, saying it's brilliant when we're getting rid of these people to Ireland.
But he's falling for it because I think a lot of these the numbers that they're looking at, which even in the article, there's a lovely article where they say around 90% of migrants claiming asylum in Ireland are coming from the UK, but that is not a statistically accurate 90. Then don't use numbers. If what you've got is a guess, that's what you mean there. Yeah,
the UK Prime Minister's spokesman said the government does not recognise the figure. That's how I feel when I see myself on TV. I'm like, I'm much better looking than that. All right, let's end with the Daily Star then, Steve.
We're going to need a bigger lilo. A great white shark is feared to be patrolling off the coast of Sussex, but it could also be that kid from Jaws with a fin strapped to its back, says the Daily Star. Nah, I can't disprove this one. There might be a great white shark out there. Let's hope there's not. I mean, I ain't going swimming either way, so I'm fine.
No, I'll never go in to sea. But they are around a lot more, aren't they, sharks now? Have you noticed that we seem to get big sharks hovering around this once very moderate island?
Is it climate change, Lewis?
No, there's always been sharks, and we don't know that it's a white shark. And there are tons of sharks. There's some of the nicest, from what I can tell, there's like really nice sharks going on.
There were nice sharks on both sides.
They're just, I hate to use that word. I think it's a lie. I think.
What, shark?
Yes. Yes.
Shark's a lie?
Yes.
This is the latest conspiracy theory from Lewis. Even I don't know this one. Water dehydrates you.
That it's a white shark.
Oh, it's a white shark.
That it's a white shark. It could be one of those basking sharks. Right,
the nice ones.
Yeah. And great white shark. How great? We don't even know it. Yeah. Maybe it's actually it's a misanthrope.
Maybe it's feeling bad about itself and it's lost right now, and there's nothing it can do, so it just wants to be left alone.
Shark empathy here on GB News. That is the front page is done. But coming up, Dad's Army becomes real. Deadly e-bikes and why the BBC grind you down. See you soon.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
The Princess of Wales is now officially the most popular royal. This is a YouGov poll that found that over 75% of people have a positive view of Princess Catherine, with Prince William only slightly behind his wife at 73%. Cameron Walker, our royal correspondent, is here with this one. But what would you read into that, and as to why?
Well, I think it's hardly surprising. Since the start of the year, the Princess of Wales's popularity is up 6 points with the British public, according to this YouGov poll. And obviously, at the start of the year, she went into hospital for abdominal surgery and has subsequently been diagnosed with cancer and is undergoing surgery. Look, the Princess of Wales, since becoming a member of the royal family, has committed no major faux pas. There's been no particular scandal with her. She always puts family first. And I hate the phrase born a commoner, but she wasn't born into aristocracy. She was not born into the royal family. She gave up her old life. And yes, that comes with lots of privilege, being a member of the royal family, but it also comes with enormous challenges, such as everybody prying into your private life, particularly when it comes to your health. And I think the British public are very much on side with that.
Whereas Prince Harry and Meghan continue to be unpopular. 76 compared to 31% having a positive opinion of Prince Harry. and only 26%, 50 points less than Princess Catherine is Meghan.
Yes, it's still not looking great for Harry and Meghan. Prince Andrew is far below them as well.
Doing well on negative views, meaning fewer people have negative views about her than anyone else, is the Princess Royal, Princess Anne.
Indeed, yes, the most hard-working royal, if you go by the number of engagements she carries out each year. No nonsense, no fuss. She never gets herself into any kind of arguments or scandals.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tomorrow,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections,
we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tomorrow at midnight on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, still here with Steve Allen and Lewis, unemployed soon, Schaefer. I riffed that one out. He's fine. He's staying, don't worry. Let's do the Times with a tragic story that shows us how urgently we need to solve this small boats problem, Steve.
Exactly, yeah. The sea was the only choice I had, says father of girl who died in Channel. You're right, a reminder that the people traffickers are the worst type of criminals. Not only because we know the rules and the laws that they're breaking, but they allow situations like this to happen when this dinghy was so crammed full of people that it led to several deaths, including this guy's daughter. And it's so sad. And he says, I couldn't protect her, I'll never forgive myself, totally understandable emotional response. And this is a difficult situation. It's when a family goes through a tragedy, you feel like you don't want to nitpick some of the details. But he said it was their only option. And I feel incredibly sad about the fact that if you read through the details, his wife was born in Belgium. So surely not all of that family had to travel by dinghy. Even if you somehow take the argument that the only place they could go to have a life is the UK, the wife and the kids could have flown. And it would have avoided this death. And maybe that's a terrible take on it, but it looks like it's true. And I understand why he'd be saying I had no choice during this situation, but it feels like you did.
Are you saying it's true? Are you saying it's true, Steve?
What?
Because you can't just get on an airplane and fly to England just because, you know, you're from Belgium or something. So I don't think that's true. He had to get on the boat. I see what the guy is saying. The guy's saying he didn't want to lose his kid, but his other kid, he survived, and his other two kids survived.
Yeah, it's very brutal, isn't it? I mean, maybe, he took the risk, obviously. I mean, Belgium denied him asylum because Basra was deemed as a safe area, so he couldn't get asylum. But then it's not right to just say, well, I'll just try and get into England. This is why we need a deterrent to stop these tragedies happening. I mean, he said there was no chance of any sort of life or his kids going to school if he didn't do this, so he just had to risk everything. But people don't seem to really believe that, from what I've seen. And
the two counters to that would be the lefty side of it. If we had a way of applying a legal route that means you didn't have to try and make it across the busiest waterway, there's that argument. But there's also the right-wing argument of you were in France. So you had the ability to be in a safe country without risking the water. But again, it feels horrible in the stomach to say something that feels like you're laying blame in the direction of someone who's going through the worst thing anyone can go through.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, this guy, he was living in Basra, and his daughter was living entirely in Belgium. So he might not have been that close to his daughter. I'm sounding a bit unsympathetic to the guy. I think at the end of the day, when you take people from other countries, you prevent them from becoming the country that they could have become.
Yeah. They might have been in Sweden, but born in Belgium, then in Sweden. Anyway, it's not clear. He seemed to move around a bit. All right, well, it's a very, very grim story. Let's do the male and female presenters are complaining that the BBC breaks you. The one was paid 139k. I mean, I'd consider being slightly broken for that. Lewis, I know you're a big fan of the BBC.
Yeah, it's not enough money for me. The BBC grinds you down, it breaks you. 4 female news presenters suing the corporation after missing out on top roles and taken off air tell employment tribunal that the selection process is rigged. And so these are 4 women between the ages of 48 and 50. I don't know who they are, really. Martine Crossall, Karen...
Croxall, yeah.
Crossall, Giannone... Kaisa Madeira, Anita McVeigh.
You need your reading glasses, Lewis.
Yeah, no, I can read it.
Some of them are right. Some of those were
Yeah,
close.
some of those, or whatever. And they're saying when they were basically kicked out of their jobs and forced to employ. And now it's going to an employment tribunal. But when these people were given jobs, and they're saying it was horrible for the BBC to do this, but when these women were given jobs 20 and 30 years ago, there was some guy like you, possibly me, who says, we don't need this guy anymore. We can get a woman for work for less money. And I don't think that they complained about it.
Well, I'm a little sceptical, Steve, just because I'm less sceptical about the age aspect, but the sex aspect. I mean, the BBC's journalist trainee scheme has just been shown to be hiring 7 women out of every 10 people, meaning hardly any men, and a tiny percentage, 1 in 3 were white Britons. So it's been shown to be very biased towards women and towards non-white people.
Could I just join in on that point? My favourite thing about that article about the training course and way it's staffed, when they were asked if there are any white men there, the response was, we don't have that information. Wait a minute, just check your paperwork. You know how many white people are there? You know how many women are there? Do the maths.
Yeah, you do the math. Yeah, so I find it very hard to believe that the BBC uniquely, discriminates against women. There is this thing about pay, and it has been shown, I think, women are less likely to negotiate for higher pay because it's very sort of tough. They're too nice, basically. I mean, I'm too nice. Yeah. That's why mine's so low, but...
I mean, there are some cases, like, if you remember the Asda one, where the women who were working on the cashiers wanted to be paid the same as the people in the warehouses, and I think you could make a solid argument about, if you had to choose on a cold day which job you wanted, you didn't want to be out in the cold warehouse, so it would be right for one to be paid more than other. Legally, I'm wrong in that. The court found that they should be paid the same. But if you are a newsreader and you think you should be paid the same as someone else doing it, have your tribunal, fair enough. Like, have a crack at it, have a swing at it. I do think the BBC is doing something terrible by... This is when they merged BBC News and BBC World News, whatever that channel was called. They merged them into the one channel. So they had to lose some people, but my word, they've lost some good newsreaders. Martine's a really good newsreader. And have you seen some of the newsreaders on the weekends? I mean, I know you need to train new talent, but some of them could barely read. It's difficult to watch. It makes you turn off. Obviously, I know you turn off for other reasons. So there's something going on with the age side of it, because they've employed a lot younger newsreaders who are terrible.
But they're readers. I mean, you should be able to read.
Yeah.
I mean, so this is... I mean... Well,
do you want to have another swing at the names?
Yeah, so, well, they're like weirdly...
Right, we do a lot more. We've got to be funny and suddenly learn 20 news stories. We don't have no training for this. And I'm coming up with funny jokes. I'm writing my own jokes. They're just reading.
Reading.
And they're getting paid 139k to read.
Is that what they said they were being paid?
One of them, yeah.
I didn't read the article.
Yeah, Martin Croxall said she revealed she was paid 139,000. It doesn't say, like, during what period. It could be the entire 20 years. I think it's probably presumably a year, or was it as a payout? I think it was a year. What's strange to me is they've sort of been loitering while still presumably being paid. I could be completely wrong on that, but she's been late, sort of not on the telly for a year, but still discussing things with the BBC. How does it work, Steve? You've worked there before you were cancelled. How does it work? You're just like allowed to sort of be on the payroll for ages while you're not on the telly.
It's very difficult to get sacked from the BBC. I know there are some amazing stories of what people have done, and they're just unsackable. And if the BBC tries to get rid of someone, they just call a union and they go in and say, well, this person needs more training. They blame the BBC for the actions of the staff.
Yeah, I sympathise to an extent if they've been mistreated, and I wasn't there. But showbiz, media is a tough business. But that's the thing. The BBC is a job for life type of approach. You can't have a job for life in this business. I mean, I sort of work on the assumption we can go any day. I mean, should you really expect to have
It's not even a business. The BBC takes 160-something pounds a year from everybody, whether they like it or not. So it's not a business. It's what do they call that? A money laundering. Can't pay.
I mean, you're right. The licence fee needs changing. It's a ridiculous way of doing it. I don't think it makes it a Ponzi scheme or other insults, but the way it's funded is wrong.
And then it's going to the Employment Tribunal, which is such a British idea. The idea is every single time someone's fired, it's got to go to an Employment Tribunal, and it means that it could be called back.
Wow. An American accusing us of being too legalistic. We've truly hit rock bottom. All right, let's do the I. And who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Putin, if you think you can beat our new volunteer army, Steve?
Yeah, UK senior ex-military figures back plan for new voluntary army in case of war. And they make a lot of sense because we're going to need some numbers. And the idea is to have what they call the mass citizen army, which feels like where there's blame, there's a claim. Like, if you get all of these people volunteering, someone trips over and we're going to be paying a lot of money. They're seeking 200,000, and the idea is to try and get veterans, people who are already trained up, basically, and that makes a lot of sense. But the army's losing people every single year. Just people not wanting to join. It's not losing through the normal army way of doing things.
Wonder why they've been so welcoming when the RAF said useless white males and all that. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
It's like the BBC recruitment
just inserting my own agenda there. Go on.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a plan that makes some sense. I mean, I hear what you say. There's something embarrassing if your army is staffed through volunteers who used to do it and, now they're back in it. It's like doctors keeping their hand in doing 1 day a week, I suppose. But it's better than nothing. And they say that if we suddenly have an extra 200,000 soldiers, effectively, that Putin would have to pay attention.
Yeah, I'm a little bit sceptical. Sorry, Liz, I'm just a bit sceptical. Putin is looking at us and he's not deterred. If he sees there are 200,000 reservists being stood up, he'll think again. Yeah. Will he if they're all like 70?
This has nothing to do with Putin. This has to do with the people living in this country. And what this guy is saying, what these leaders, Lord Dannett or whoever the other people are, they're saying there's hundreds of thousands of ex-soldiers who are our kind of people. And they're going to be fighting the people who aren't our kind of people. And that's what this is all about. This is about getting people who are proper English people to fight for England or Britain, whatever this country wants to call itself, Britain. It's for fighting for the true country.
But is the problem, I mean, just quickly on that, there was this thing that came out that was given to sort of top army brass, as they say, and it was this warning, indicators of far-right extremist views, and one of them was patriotism. I mean, haven't the army caused this partly themselves with this bizarre sort of wokeism that's infected the whole thing?
I'm not sure they've caused it. I think the people in the government, whatever, have caused it. But I think that this is the guy. Probably he's in his 60s. These people, and they're not the ones who are setting these kind of crazy rules.
OK, fair enough. Well, let's do the Telegraph then. And when I first heard the phrase e-bikes, I thought it was just an old man from Yorkshire complaining about bikes, but it's something far more sinister, Lewis.
E-bikes and 40 mile per hour.
Right myself. Where's my 139k?
That was very funny.
Martin.
You're going to be fired when they replace you with some cheap woman. The 40 mile per hour death trap, quote unquote death trap, e-bikes wreaking havoc or wreaking havoc on Britain's streets. And this is a complaint that was made by the Motorcycle Industry Association, who are like BMW and Honda and Yamaha, and they're saying that the motorbikes go a bit too fast. And people aren't trained, and they're not buying insurance, and they're making it harder for us, who've got the really nice bikes, to use them.
OK.
Actually, I'm torn on this. I started reading this going, yeah, it's ridiculous. All these e-bikes, they are going fast. Part of my brain was just doing my e-scooter response, because they wind me up more. But actually, the argument that they're getting more people biking and it's healthy, the e-bike's doing a lot of the work. That's like going to the gym and asking a big lad to lift something for you because you don't want to put your back out. Are you really getting that much health benefit from being on an e-bike? But legally, they're capped at 15 miles an hour. And I cycle. Where I live, there's one of those little speed traps. And one of my favourite things to do is make it flash red. You should go through there at 21 miles an hour. So actually, 15 miles an hour is a bit slow for a bike when you can do it, some manly thighs can get you 21 miles an hour.
I believe that's one of your favourite things to do.
But fill it in. It's not. They're not going 15 miles an hour. They're going much faster because they've been improved or whatever they've been done to them, and they've been. They're not being checked.
Well, I have to say I felt personally attacked. It said these illegal e-bikes, are they designed to be able to stop quickly at high speeds with a person weighing 13 stone? I was like, how dare you? Although I've lost 2.8 pounds today, so I'm down to 11.8.
You could stop quicker.
The nation didn't need to know that. That is it for part 2, but coming up, why slavery didn't make Britain rich, why you should let go of your anger, Lewis, and why Ofcom is looking into porn. See you in a minute.
Hi there, welcome to the latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Heavy rain overnight in the south, continuing into much of Thursday. Risk of thunderstorms in places, but it will be much drier further north. We've got an area of low pressure across the continent. That's going to push some humid and warm air into much of the UK overnight, but on the boundary between that and the cooler air out in the Atlantic, we've got this reactivation of a frontal zone bringing some heavy rain to Northern Ireland, Wales, and then increasingly southern England. The persistent wet weather will affect South Wales and the southwest of England by dawn, but thundery showers will turn up across the Midlands, southern England as well, and they'll tend to drift their way northwards and westwards into mid-Wales and continue for some time through the morning. Eventually, the rain does ease in many places. We keep the cloud cover in the south, but much drier and brighter weather is expected further north. I think for northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, some decent sunny spells will turn up. However, on the North Sea coast, a lot of low cloud will be prevalent, and that will limit temperatures 11 to 12 Celsius, whilst it goes up to 21 to 23 Celsius in western Scotland. Similar temperature contrast across northern Scotland. On Friday, warm in the west, cool in the east. Southern England, some warm sunshine as well, but in between, outbreaks of rain continuing, even some thundery showers. On Saturday, the fine weather moves north, but there'll be further rain coming up from the south.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's crack on with the Telegraph. And apparently slavery didn't even make Britain rich. I'm starting to think the whole thing wasn't worth it, Steve.
I knew we'd convince you eventually. Yeah, slavery did not make Britain rich, finds report. Well, there's a new book that reveals that colonialism delivered only modest gains. And if you do the maths, there are some gains, but all the military extra that you have to spend for going around doing all the slavery costs. So they've said, actually, it didn't make the nation rich because there's a lot of outgoings associated with running a slave trade. And you could also add in the end of the slave trade to add some maths into it. But also, I'm not sure that's exactly what reparations are based on, the prosperiness of the doers. It's also the impact to the nations. This same report says there is a cost to the people who were taken from countries. And I suppose if you view it this way, you know, if you get mugged and you want your wallet back and the police say, yeah, but you had to get an Uber to come and mug you, you wouldn't care about the costs that the perpetrator did in this. But what I think is the best finding out of this, it made some families rich. We've had some cases of some families giving money. Reparations should come from the rich families, not the rest of the nation. Get the rich, posh people paying if it's going to happen, not the people from working class backgrounds who've slightly socially climbed. I'm on board all of a sudden.
But you know what? That's like 200 years ago. So you're asking the descendants of people from 200 years, and there's no more. There's no money from those people.
The Trevelyan's did it. They still had the dosh.
Here's the thing. This is... you know what? I hate to say it. You're basically right, because the Danes didn't have any slaves, and they're very rich, and the Norwegians didn't have any slaves, and they're rich. And I don't think the Germans, did the Germans have any slaves? Don't think that they did. So just
they probably did. I mean, one of the worst ones he cites is the Belgians rule over the Congo. So let's not let the Belgians.
But they weren't slaves in Belgium, I don't think. I think they were just oppressed people.
Well, it was colonialism. That's what we're talking about. It's about colonialism. So this is Christian Niemitz. We should shout him out because he follows me on Twitter and I follow him. So he's an interesting guy, and he has this new book, Imperial Measurement, and he's just going through this, overturning some myths. I think we should do that because although it turns out, we didn't get rich of it, and as you say, although it turns out it wasn't good for the people, which we might imagine, we do need to get rid of the idea that we're just uniquely evil and that, I mean, that's one thing that maybe that's not relevant to this book, but the idea we got rich off it. Probably most kids think that in school, that it was just bad all around for everyone, and it was going on a lot. And we ended it as well. We never hear about that. That worries me a bit because kids in school. There was a piece by Michael Deacon in the Telegraph. A group of 13-year-olds were asked, do you hate Britain? All their hands went up immediately. I mean, we could teach a different history, even if it's this, even if it's okay. We didn't get rich. It was bad for the people. A nuanced history, but we need a more nuanced, accurate history.
And even if we did get rich, so what? So what? The hell with these people. Let them get. And you know what? You go to Nigeria or Ghana or whatever. Half the people were stealing the other half of the people and putting them on boats. We didn't go into Africa and enslave anybody. We were given not me, but we, the British people, were given these people. So they should just take it. They should just take it. Not that they're going to take it easy, but this is where we're hating each other too much.
No, it's a sudden redemptive message at the end there. You went all hippie in the middle of that sentence. OK, let's end on that upbeat moment. Let's do the Telegraph. And have you considered letting go of your anger, Lewis? And then we'll get on to the actual story.
Yeah, I have thought about it. Why letting go of anger is good for your health. And it is good for your health. And this is like a non-story, which with Columbia University Irving Medical Center, that's down where I used to live, down on between 13th and 14th Streets on Avenue B.
Yeah, we need to get the exact street names, please.
Yeah, 221 Avenue B.
Right.
That's useful for Middle England. You know what is that? It's probably, I haven't been there. But I was there a few.
Probably not moved.
No, it's still there.
I respect that you've continued this riff, though, and you've kept going with this joke, which is just listing American street names that no one cares about.
Well, do you want to know something?
No.
Yes, because people want to hear it. Because there's some people watching it and they're saying, "Oh my God, I'm on Avenue B right now. I'm in 221."
This story's about anger, and you're making it happen.
You're making us angry.
I'm a very angry person.
Yes.
My blood pressure is like 200 over 120, 48 beats per minute. I've got very high blood pressure, but they're saying that people who don't get worked up are happier. It's old news.
They're saying that even remembering past experiences can mess with your blood vessels and make you make you die earlier, Steve, or something.
Yeah, basically. And they don't know the link between probably adrenaline and cortisol, the two hormones that increase when you have these experiences. But if you cling on to anger, you get more of those hormones. They don't know how, but then that impacts your blood vessels and you're going to die. And they say by studying this, they might be able to find some sort of a treatment. And I say, no, if you can't rein your anger in, die young. That's what you should do. I get a little bit annoyed by people who act like they're the victim of their own temper. Angry people, what am I meant to do? Be in charge of your own emotions. Don't be so weak. I say this as someone who was very angry in his 20s and now I'm like the most zen person I know. So I do think if you don't have the ability to rein in your emotions, stay in. Because if you can't drive, we don't let you put behind the wheel. If you can't rein in your anger...
How bad is it that somebody says, hey, calm down, take it easy? What's wrong with that?
Well, they're dying young, and also, if you're angry people, they're the ones who do all the violent crimes. Chill out.
A lot of them aren't angry. A lot of them, this is their job that they're doing.
To be fair, though, Steve, the world is very annoying and people are awful. So I do understand.
We live in the same world, and somehow I've realised that the angry response is childish. Oh, I got so upset. Well, be a grown-up.
Yeah, but you're a kind of sciencey, robot person. So
I had a dissociative moment. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyway,
so maybe
I'm getting angry now.
Maybe somebody needs to be told, hey, getting angry is going to cause a heart attack or a stroke, so don't do it. Why not?
It's a good disincentive. Let's do the Independent. And Ofcom is investigating OnlyFans, and to meet Ofcom regulations, one of you will have to be pro-Ofcom and the other pro-porn. Which do you want, Steve?
Well, let's find out. OnlyFans investigated by UK regulator Ofcom over fears that BBC News readers could access porno. Wait a minute. Young people could access pornography. That was a different news story. Wait until you hear about the rest of the internet. Because if you don't find it on OnlyFans, literally like one click away on any search engine. So Ofcom, our biggest fans, well, they watch a lot anyway, they're looking into this. It's another one of those stories that is upsetting. What OnlyFans failed to do was have a proper system that checked the age of the people signing up, and they were erring on the other side. They'd set a limit of 20-year-olds, and it was only letting people join if they were 23 or above. Then they're investigating to see if this error meant more, but the headline makes it look like they're letting 2-year-olds join, and they weren't. You need a credit card to join. So there still was a restriction in place, but still we like headlines that make people look like they're wrong.
And what the question is, what is Ofcom doing, which stands for Office of Censorship of Media? What are they doing involved in this? This is like an independent thing. How could they be involved with OnlyFans?
You think 11-year-olds should be able to join OnlyFans?
No, I think it's a valid point Lewis has, which is porn is very damaging for teenagers and so on, definitely, but also Ofcom expanding its remit more and more. Is that also pretty damaging? You know, there used to be TV, now it's the internet. Where does it end?
I agree with that. It's like, would they just stop it? The guy who's in control of this is a grade, one of the grades, and his uncle was the guy who paid for having The Prisoner made. Do you know?
No, you're right. I agree with you now. It's just disgraceful.
Any idea what he's talking about, Steve?
So Michael Grade and Lou Grade are the two grades you're talking about, and The Prisoner was a TV series in the 60s.
By Lou Grade, and Michael Grade is the guy who's head of this thing. And I guess he's in his 80s and he wants to keep busy. And so he's having his people do things.
No idea what that was.
All right, well, let's move on. I just want to say I love Ofcom, but, you know, go easy on Jacob. Let's do the Times. And women make absolutely brilliant footballers. It's set when they're on their period. Not my words. Blame the scientists, Lewis. It's pure science.
It is the science. A female footballer is 6 times likelier to get injured before a period. And the period is, you know, the bloody thing down there.
I think the viewers probably know.
I think they do know, and I don't know that much about it. I'm finding out more and more about it as I get older. I'm a bit too... I never paid attention to it when I was younger, and I don't want to pay attention to it now, but I'm constantly told by some woman that her period and everything. But it says basically that women get periods, and then they get injured during the periods, and if they didn't get periods, they'd be a lot healthier.
It's word for word. Exactly.
So, yeah, well, that's what the science says. It's the science. It's your business.
No, yeah, OK, so they get injured more. They're far more likely to get injured during this premenstrual phase. And, of course, they presumably synchronise the whole team together. So if you get them on that 1 week, you'll just destroy them 10-0.
Yeah.
Right?
So, not sadly, that seems a bit harsh. This looks like, you imagine, injured by just going in for a tackle. That's what's happened. The hormones have taken over. It's more likely to get muscular strain. So, actually, that makes some kind of physical sense. You imagine, you know, you might be less supple during a certain time. Because I imagined it would be the hormones kick in, they see the ball as an egg and just want it. That's not what happens.
No. Do they get sent off more during this period for arguing with the ref?
And then to do shoplifting and things like that. That's also what they do. No, I think this looks bad for vigorous sex, because this is on your way into getting pregnant, and you're more likely to put, the time when you could conceive, you're more likely to pull a muscle. That's a shame.
Okay.
Well, if they were really good athletes, they wouldn't even have a period. They would whatever it is.
You're thinking of men?
No, I'm thinking women. When women exert themselves, they don't have periods. And
what was the end of that sentence? We have to move on, but I also want to know.
I just said it. Maybe
the nation will get it home. I wasn't really listening, but do you know what? You can tell this is the women's game. Maybe I'll get in trouble for this, but because it says they're concerned about the pain and suffering of the players. If it's a men's game, they'll just be like, "This is going to stop us winning the league." That's all they care about, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird kind of men's rights point at the end. All right, let's do the Telegraph with a story about a school that the Soviet Union could only dream of. Steve.
Yeah, a private school had parents investigated by social services in row over trans daughter. That is what your money is paying for. This is Child's mother says that George Watson's College in Edinburgh, remember we're talking Scottish rules then, aren't we, up there, would rather defer to controversial LGBT charity than listen to clinical advice. What happened was they had a child who was questioning, and they wanted, what's the phrase, watchful waiting. This is the approach where you wait and you watch, you observe and you don't do any action. And this is effectively in line with the results of the Cass report, the being cautious about it. So this is before that.
Oh, that's what it sounds like, Steve.
Let me finish the thing. Then the school was like, no, we're going to affirm whichever gender they want to go for. And this is you like this part of the story. They called in social services. The social services interviewed the parents, totally agreed with the parents.
Yeah, but it was absolutely disgusting that the school is calling social services on parents because they're worried about their child becoming trans. I mean, how this just dystopian Soviet, as I said, sickening. What do you think, Lewis?
I agree with that. It's that's what's happening right now. Is all of the strong, wonderful things that make this country good are being under attack.
Yeah. Well, the neoliberal state wants to own your children instead of the family. Sorry, Lewis, we've got to go. I want to do more on that story, but that is it for part 3. But coming up in the final section, vaccines, sleep, and the inevitable meat story for Lewis. See you in a minute.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Now, American actress Melissa McCarthy has spoken out in defence of her best friend, Meghan Markle, calling her an inspiring woman suffering hate for getting on with her life. And the Duchess of Sussex has faced widespread criticism after she sent 50 friends and influencers gift-wrapped jam jars to celebrate the launch of the first product of a new brand, American Riviera Orchard. Well, let's speak now to a great friend of the show, the former BBC Royal correspondent and a man who likes his jam, Michael Cole. Michael, the absurdity continues. What's the latest?
Yeah, good afternoon, Martin. Yeah, the plot thickens even as the jam sets. This has become a major story. Even the great Financial Times took an interest at the weekend, helpfully pointing out that you can get a jar of Dutchy organic strawberry jam for £2.80 at a well-known supermarket. Now, Dutchy Organic, the proprietor of that, of course, is His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, Prince William, the older brother of Prince Harry. And here we see it, American Riviera Orchard Montecito jam. We're getting here, this is getting very serious. And of course, her mates, she's got some interesting friends. Melissa McCarthy, who is an actress in something I've never heard of. But anyway, she says sticking up for good old Meghan, and Meghan's a woman of her own. And she, there we are, seeing Miss McCarthy. But other friends of the great Meghan have taken a contrary view and think that going down this route of selling jam is not going to get her anywhere in life.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on. Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Now, this is the light-hearted section of the show where we do funny stories. So let's look at this Times article about local government debt, Lewis.
Well, it is funny because I'm warning of more council bankruptcies as debt doubles. So this is what's going on in councils because the councils borrowed a lot of money. They basically, the governments, I guess, stopped giving them money. I don't know what happened. They like my borough, which is Southwark, because I'm in Nunhead, and this is what's happened, is that they've run out of money because the interest rates have gone up and up and up, and 15%, that the amount of money that each borough is spending on the debt for their little area is 15%, and it used to be 9%, and the council's average net worth is down $80 billion. So these...
We should convert that into pounds for a start.
Pounds, sorry. Pounds.
Okay.
And so...
Just nothing came out there. OK, Lewis is devastated by the debt of these councils. I mean, Steve, here's an idea for you. Areas should be privately run, councils privately run, like Lewisham, sponsored by Sony, because they're just doing such a bad job. Let's make it private.
That's what's happening.
Now he talks. I asked Steve, he's back. Go on, then.
No, You go, Steve. No, that is what's happening. Like in Southwark, they want to put one of the tallest buildings, I think, in Southwark, and not in Southwark, in London, in Southwark. And that's what they're doing. They're building tall and taller buildings. Who's benefiting from that? The council is either benefiting from it, and the people who are putting the buildings up.
I have a bit of sympathy for councils, though, because what also happens is the government gets to decide who does what, keeps moving things in the direction of the council has to do it, and then stops giving them money. So, of course, it's going to happen. It's also true that councils aren't allowed to be in debt. They have to declare bankruptcy, whereas governments don't. Otherwise, the shame, I think it was like 1695 the last time that the UK wasn't in debt. So there's a bit of hypocrisy there. But I don't like the idea of our council tax going to pay interest. You should be paying for the services you get.
OK. Let's do the Times with a vaccine story, which I notice has strategically not gone to Lewis, Steve.
Yeah, fierce immune response from vaccine. And I'll tell you why I'm doing quoting marks in a bit. Offer hope for glioblastoma. So we're talking about a brain cancer, and this is just last week. There was the story of a vaccine for skin cancer. They work by the same things. You take a bit of RNA from the cancer, you then train the immune response of the body to attack that protein, that RNA, and then you kill the cancer. It's working. It's working in other animals. Now it's working in humans as well. Quote marks, not a vaccine. Because it's a treatment. So you can't actually have this done before you have the cancer. You take a bit of the cancer and you program the immune response. The big problem with cancer is our immune systems don't fight it. If you can get the immune system to do all the work, because you can't get anything that's as good as the immune system. And this is what it does, and it seems to be working.
I'm impressed by your knowledge. I'm a bit gutted that the fun section has horrific illnesses and council debt. I think they're trying to stitch me up, Lewis. Anything on this?
Yeah, a lot on this thing. This thing is one of those stories about dogs, and they basically they said they normally would have died between 30 and 60 days if they've got this thing, and because they've been given this thing for this glioblastoma, they're living 139 days. So it's not like they've been given 5 more years or 10 more years.
That's quite a while.
It is complete. The point is that glioblastoma is one of those diseases. It's cancer of the brain. So they don't have the kind of treatment that they would have for other bodies, number one. And number two, the treatment of there's a guy, his name, I'm not going to say what his name is because I forgot it. But basically, all you need to do is you need to starve cancer.
It's a cure.
OK, well, there's the lighthearted section. Let's do the Mail and why the cool kids don't sleep, literally, Lewis.
Tired kids, the most popular children at school, get the least sleep, especially if they are girls, study finds. This comes out of Sweden, and Sweden is a country that's a lot like our country. And this, if I call this my country, my kids' country, and it's my kids' country, and it says that popular teens get the least amount of sleep, but only if you're a girl, basically. If you're a boy, it doesn't really affect them.
Quick hot take on this. It's correlation versus causation. No, I think you'll find people who've had a lot of sleep are intolerable. Oh, I slept really well last night. I don't like you. So it's not that popular people don't sleep. It's people who sleep well. Oh, they wind you right up.
Oh, it's very interesting.
We've got one more story in this last minute, so let's do the Mirror. And are young people afraid of the telephone, Steve?
Afraid so. A quarter of young people never pick up the phone when you call them, a new study finds. Take the hint, stop calling. New research says that this generation don't refuse to pick up the phone. They don't do proper phone calls, which makes you feel sorry for the Samaritans. The volunteers there, well, they're going to be quiet, aren't they? You don't need to call now. That's the difference. When we were growing up, phone calls were the only way to get information across. Even I look at my phone when it's ringing, thinking like, you better be calling to explain why you're not texting me, because you never know, a phone call could take too long.
OK, Lewis, 20 seconds on this.
I agree totally. Steve he's a scientist.
That was only 6 seconds. I mean, that's the first time you've been concise is when I wanted you to be more verbose. I can't believe it.
Ask him about an address.
I'll give my take on it, which is that I've blocked Lewis when he calls, so it never comes up. All right, the show is pretty much over, but let's take another quick look at Thursday's front pages. So the Daily Mail has Day That Rwanda Became a Reality, which is about the Rwanda scheme finally kicking in. The Telegraph, Ireland sends police to border in migrant row. The Times has Labour plan for Channel migrants to get asylum. The Express, heartbroken family pay tribute to wonderful child, which is the tragic story of Daniel Anjuin. The iNews has UK Rwanda plan could be delayed as civil servants sue government. And finally, the Daily Star, we're going to need a bigger lilo, which was about a potential large shark in Sussex. We cover all the big stories. That is all we have time for. Thanks to Lewis and Steve. We're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with some other people. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then stay tuned for breakfast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Heavy rain overnight in the south, continuing into much of Thursday. Risk of thunderstorms in places, but it will be much drier further north. We've got an area of low pressure across the continent. That's going to push some humid and warm air into much of the UK overnight, but on the boundary between that and the cooler air out in the Atlantic, we've got this reactivation of a frontal zone bringing some heavy rain to Northern Ireland, Wales, and then increasingly southern England. The persistent wet weather will affect South Wales and the southwest of England by dawn, but thundery showers will turn up across the Midlands, southern England as well, and they'll tend to drift their way northwards and westwards into mid-Wales and continue for some time through the morning. Eventually the rain does ease in many places. We keep the cloud cover in the south, but much drier and brighter weather is expected further north. I think for northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, some decent sunny spells will turn up. However, on the North Sea coast, a lot of low cloud will be prevalent, and that will limit temperatures 11 to 12 Celsius, whilst it goes up to 21 to 23 Celsius in western Scotland. Similar temperature contrast across northern Scotland. On Friday, warm in the west, cool in the east. Southern England, some warm sunshine as well, but in between, outbreaks of rain continuing, even some thundery showers. On Saturday, the fine weather moves north, but there'll be further rain coming up from the south.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We've blown the budget by giving you the chance to win a totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For a chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tomorrow,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections.
We'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we